All right, so we're back with the CTS-V here. So I've been driving it, trying to get the 1200 clutch cycles in on this twin disc before you're supposed to drive it hard or go wide open or something. So anyway, again, I don't know how you're really supposed to keep up with that, but they tried to research a little more, but really they want you to shift 1200 times before the clutch is considered broken in, because apparently just, putting it in sixth gear and driving it on an interstate for 500 miles doesn't really break in the clutch. I guess pressing the clutch pedal works it in, or I don't know. But anyway, I'm trying to get some eyes on it, trying to get that taken care of. So the check engine light was on, and I had scanned the codes, and it was because it detected a misfire because of the camshaft. Somebody said this was not a mild camshaft, but I mean, it's a pretty mild camshaft. It's like 226, 230, 600, 600 on a 113. So I mean, that's a pretty mild camshaft. But it seems to drive fine, and like I say, I was trying to get the check engine light off just because it was bothering me. So I had scanned the codes again, and it was given a random misfire, and like I say, which obviously is because of the camshaft. And so I read the codes again before I wrote the new file, because I desensitized the tables and the engine diagnostics part on HP tuners. And once you write the file, then it loses all the codes. So I checked the codes, and it said rich on bank 1 and rich on bank 2, the random misfire, and some other stuff. So I was like, man, why would it be rich? And then of course, me, I would notice that the fuel consumption seemed to be pretty great for just a little 6.2. And so I got looking at it and got to thinking, and I looked up the data on the map sensor I had put in it. And this is an LS3, L77, whatever map sensor. I've got several of them, and they fit this style of an intake with it, where it bolts on right here. So I looked up the part number and then looked at my tune file from the Caprice, and the linear or the first number on this map sensor is like 128, and then the bottom number was negative 0.31, whereas the LS6 map sensor, the top number was 93 or 96, something like that, and the bottom number was 10.3 or something. So that's kind of a big difference, and it'll make the engine run in a different part of the VE table. So that was my fault. I goofed that up. So I am putting the correct data on there. And then I was looking at the injector data, because these are the Caprice PPV flex injectors, and obviously it's in a Gen 4 E38 platform is what these injectors came from. So there's a spreadsheet where you can take Gen 4 data and put it in there, and then it'll output LS1 data, which is what the P59 down there takes. So I was looking at it, and the tables, the row axis and column axis labels didn't go as high and were different. So I was just going to put, you put in what you know, and then you interpolate the rest, and then, sometimes that'll get you close or work. Then I got to reading and looking at it, and on the HP forum, and the guy was like, if you have the injectors from an ECU that went to 127 flow rate max, you can't use that spreadsheet, because your data is going to be wrong, because it has more columns. It has more columns on it, and then it doesn't work. Don't use it. So I was like, well, great. Now what do I do? So I found, and digging into that and clicking through and going through, I was able to find how to input the correct data it needed from the Gen 4 E38 into this ECU, and then interpolating and smoothing all that, and it seems to run a whole lot better. The fuel consumption seems to have gone down, and the light hasn't come back on, and it seems to be running a lot better. So I've got to put a O2 bung on it. I talked to Michael, and he wants an O2 bung, and I should have known better. I should have already just put one, but I've got to put an O2 bung so we can run his Bollinger O2 wideband, which is way more accurate than my piece of junk Innovate. And then we can get some good accurate data and get the fueling dialed in on it, and get this thing ready to go. So in review, it's a 6.2 bottom end out of a 2011 Denali. It's a Summit 8707 camshaft. These are Liberty Performance cylinder heads. They have a 64 cc combustion chamber, which makes this engine about 11-to-1. Trunnion upgrades, a new oil pump, new timing chain, all that good stuff. LS3 intake, LS2 silver blade throttle body, and this Volant cold air intake thingy dingy. And then it has the PPV flex fuel injectors in it, and the L77 map sensor. It has a McLeod twin disc in it, and then we've got a JXB center support for the drive shaft, and then we have the bushings and the new cradle bushings, and then we have the new bushing and the carrier, the front bushing on there has been replaced. It's got a new water pump because that's the first thing that went out when I started driving it. And I always got long tube headers from Walmart. I built the exhaust. It's a 3-inch exhaust. Initially, I did the exhaust with an X pipe, and then it has Flowmaster FX mufflers on there. And the drone was so unbearable that I could not take it, and I actually cut the Flowmasters off, put the stock mufflers back on, and then I was like, man, I feel like I'm leaving power on the table doing this. So what I did is I put the Flowmaster FXs back on here, and I did, they're called Helmholtz resonators. So I didn't do the math or run any calculations or anything. Basically, I just put the longest piece of pipe, J-pipe, I could put on there, and it did reduce the drone. The other thing that reduced the drone was the changing the parameters in the tune really helped. I also had the nice V mats that my wife got me, and then this is the radio. It fits the dash very well, and it looks great. It really does. It's a I think they call it a 10.1 Android, and somehow my wife got it where it projected my phone on here and was working how I would have expected it to yesterday, and then I haven't been able to get it to do that since. So again, my buddy's gonna come over and show me how to use all this. I hooked it up to a Wi-Fi when I got home, and it seems to do more, but it had a CAN bus module or something with it. And with the old radio, things would pop up on the screen as you were driving, like it would just randomly apply the brakes on you, and then it would tell you to check the gas cap, and then and it also had the odometer, so it would tell you how many miles you had been, which is important for calculating fuel mileage. And it also had outside air temperature and stuff like that. And I would like to get that back if at all possible. I don't know how you do that. I hope it has the capabilities to show that information, because I always like to know the outside air temperature. I don't know why, but I don't know. I just like to know the outside air temperature. And then we got the short throw shifter, the CS shifter, and the bushings and all that stuff for there, and the new transmission mount. And I mean, it's basically a new car at this point, right? But oh, and so the other thing is I did solid motor mounts on it, and I knew better. I really did, but I did it anyway. And the solid mounts absolutely suck. So I have already purchased another set. I think they're UMI is what they're called. I couldn't remember the name the other day, but hopefully they'll be here soon, and I'll get those switched out. Another thing is the belt squeak. I still haven't gotten a belt. Excuse me, and that's about to drive me nuts, because that belt squeaking. I have no idea why it's squeaking, but it is very annoying. And then there's one tube on this side on the header where it's close. The steering shaft is close to the exhaust. So when I'm doing the motor mounts, I'll have to clearance that a little bit. And other than that, it's very enjoyable to drive again. The drone was horrendous, but I didn't realize how much data and information and science was involved with tuning an exhaust system, because I've never encountered this before. And there really is, you can learn a lot about this Helmholtz resonators. There's actually a company that makes an exhaust for the PPVs. It's called a solo exhaust or something, and basically that's all it is instead of a muffler, it's a Helmholtz resonator. And I've never heard one or whatever, but they seem to be popular with the Caprice guys. So so it must be good. And so I might try to add some link to it, because that seems to be the big thing, is you want to have the Helmholtz tube to be the right length based on something about what RPM the drone is. You got to measure the temperature of the exhaust, basically go for a drive and everything, operate temperature, and then measure the exhaust, see what temperature it is. And then from that you can calculate with the speed of sound and all this stuff. So there was one video I found where they really got technical with it. They were using PVC and taping it, and then they had a plunger that they could move inside the PVC to effectively change the length of the Helmholtz tube, and they really dialed it in. So once they were able to determine the length from the plunger type system, then they put it in metal, and then the length of it, they had to put several J-bends and everything. And apparently with the J-bends and stuff, that allows the noise cancellation from the sound bouncing around in the tube. So I may play with a little bit more, just to try to get a little more out of it, because like I say, I of course I researched all that after I added them to it, but it did take away that drone that was this one is about 1800 RPM, which coincidentally is about 60 in sixth gear. So it was just so right there at that RPM, it was just driving me crazy. Enough to where when I got home, I just cut them off and put the stock mufflers back on. But so far, it's taken some time for me to get it back where I'm happy with it. Again, I think the big thing was the parameters with the map and the injector data, which goes to show GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. If you got crap data in, you're going to get crap data out. So you need to double check your data and make sure all that's correct before you start running. But surprisingly, it seemed to run fine as it was and everything. but my wife going to work. But like I say, it's taking a little bit to try to get it, you know, happy again where I can drive it. I took the kids to school in it this morning, and again, just trying to get the clutch cycles in, to break the clutch in, and you know, I want to get the wideband on it and get all that tuned in. It's staying running before coming to a stop or something. It would shut off. So now it's not doing that. It's able to hold and maintain idle, which is always a plus, because you don't want to look like that guy, you know, trying to 2-foot it, keeping it running. It's kind of embarrassing. So anyway, that's that.